John, there's a comet headed our way.
To millions of fans, Lost in Space was pure television magic. It had adventure, suspense, and some of the most memorable characters of its era. But behind that success was a very different story. Many of the storylines were purely accidental. Filming the show wasn't safe for some actors, and rumors of jealousy and tensions clouded the show's legacy. Decades later, when the cast finally began revealing what really happened, the truth turned out to be far more heartbreaking than fans expected. The show was a television accident. Lost in Space is one of the most beloved science fiction shows of all time. For 3 seasons in the mid-1960s, families gathered around their television sets every week to watch the Robinson family battle aliens, dodge asteroids, and try to find their way back home. The show became a cultural touchstone, launching catchphrases and characters that would live on for decades. But here is what most people do not realize. Lost in Space almost did not happen at all. And even after it made it to the air, some of the strangest details hidden inside the episodes have gone unnoticed by fans for nearly 60 years. The idea for the show came from a very old source. The original concept was called Space Family Robinson, and it was directly inspired by Johann David Wyss's novel, The Swiss Family Robinson. The premise was simple. A family gets stranded in space instead of on a deserted island. CBS liked the idea, but executives worried the title was too similar to Disney's 1960 film, Swiss Family Robinson, so the name was changed to Lost in Space. That decision seemed minor at the time, but it set off a chain of events that would shape television history. Just weeks after CBS bought Lost in Space, a young producer named Gene Roddenberry walked into the office of CBS programmer James Aubrey. Roddenberry had an idea he called Wagon Train to the Stars. The pitch was straightforward. Take the structure of a popular Western and transplant it into outer space. A starship crew traveling from planet to planet, meeting new civilizations, getting into trouble, and moving on. Aubrey listened to Roddenberry and then rejected the pitch. He told Roddenberry that CBS already had a space show they liked better. Why? Because their show had kids. Here's where things get uncomfortable. Some reports claim that during Roddenberry's pitch meeting, CBS executives grilled him on technical details. They asked about music. They asked about spaceship design. Roddenberry advised that the music should borrow from Bernard Herrmann's iconic score for The Day the Earth Stood Still. He also suggested that the spaceship design should be based on the United Planets cruiser from the 1956 film Forbidden Planet. CBS took that advice and gave it to Irwin Allen, the producer of Lost in Space. The Jupiter 2's distinctive saucer shape and the series' musical score can be traced directly back to Roddenberry's rejected pitch. No lawsuit was ever filed, but the creative debt was an open secret in Hollywood for years. Roddenberry was forced to take his concept to NBC, where it became a little show called Star Trek. The problems with Lost in Space did not end with the concept. Irwin Allen produced a pilot in 1964 with a budget of $600,000, making it the most expensive television pilot ever filmed at that time. The original story showed the Jupiter 2 getting lost due to a mechanical failure. But Allen made a critical mistake. He invited NASA officials to consult on the pilot. One of them, a man named Chris Kraft, examined the Jupiter 2 blueprints and told Allen bluntly that the ship would never fly. He said it would not even get off the launch pad. Allen snapped back that 100 years earlier, people were saying the same things about NASA's rockets. The exchange did not go well, and NASA reportedly distanced itself from the production. CBS rejected the pilot, but not because of the spaceship design. The network executives had a different concern. The mechanical failure storyline was deemed unacceptable during the height of the 1960s space race. America was trying to beat the Soviet Union to the moon. CBS executives feared that showing an American spaceship getting lost because of equipment failure would undermine public confidence in NASA's capabilities. Allen was forced to reshoot the pilot. The cause of the crisis was changed from mechanical failure to sabotage by a foreign government. That is how Dr. Zachary Smith was born. A character who was never supposed to be in the show became the reason the Robinsons were lost in the first place. Because of these last-minute changes, 80% of the original pilot footage was never aired as intended. Instead, it was chopped up and integrated into the first 5 episodes of the series. Sharp-eyed viewers watching those early episodes today can spot the inconsistencies, the same footage appearing from different angles, background details that do not quite match, a pilot that was never meant to be seen, stitched together like a patchwork quilt. The Jupiter 2 standing sets were the most expensive in television history at that time, costing approximately $350,000. Allen famously quipped that if Lost in Space did not run for 3 years, they would all go bankrupt. But here is the contradiction. Despite the expensive sets, each episode operated on a paltry $130,000 weekly budget, which was extremely modest compared to other hour-long shows of the era. This forced the production to reuse effects, costumes, and sets constantly. Allen had a notorious pattern of spending lavishly on pilots and season openers, then producing threadbare episodes later in the season when the money ran out. As each season progressed, the episodes got cruder and shoddier. The show was held together by duct tape and desperation, and yet it worked. But 2 of the most famous characters in the series were not supposed to be there at all. They were afterthoughts, additions made at the last minute, and the cast has finally revealed what fans never noticed about them. 2 famous characters were afterthoughts. Dr. Zachary Smith is the character most people remember from Lost in Space, the dastardly villain with the flowing cape, the theatrical voice, and the endless schemes. He was the reason the Robinson family got stranded in the first place. He sabotaged the Jupiter 2, sending them careening off course and into the unknown. Without Dr. Smith, there is no show. But here is the thing. Dr. Smith was never supposed to be there at all. The original pilot was deemed too hardware-driven by CBS executives. Too much focus on the ship and the science, not enough on character conflict. The network wanted a recurring villain, someone who could cause trouble week after week. A cowardly, self-serving opportunist who could be both villain and comic relief. That is how Dr. Zachary Smith was born, a last-minute addition to a pilot that had already been shot and rejected. The persistent rumor that Dr. Smith was only supposed to appear in a few episodes is false. Jonathan Harris received special guest star billing not because his role was temporary, but because the billing of the other 6 actors was already contractually locked before the series went into production. Harris requested the special billing, and Irwin Allen eventually agreed. This made Jonathan Harris the first actor in television history to receive special guest star status on a series. He was not a guest, he was a regular. The billing was just a creative workaround. In early episodes, Dr. Smith was a purely evil, cold-hearted saboteur who made repeated attempts to hurt the Robinsons. The makeup department even gave him eyeliner to make him look more sinister. Harris hated playing that version of the character. He did not want to be a snarling, unappealing villain. So he started softening the character on his own without telling the producers. He turned Smith into a cowardly, lazy, greedy, yet somehow lovable louse. His famous sarcastic comments to the robot were mostly improvised by Harris himself. The producers eventually noticed, but by then, the audience had fallen in love with the new Smith. The show pivoted to accommodate him, and Lost in Space was never the same. That pivot came at a cost. When Guy Williams and June Lockhart were first approached for their roles, Irwin Allen personally assured them they were the stars, and the stories would center around the Robinson family. The show was sold to them as a science fiction drama that would engage all ages. Williams, in particular, had reason to believe this. He had already been a reasonably big name and a heartthrob for years, first as Zorro and then as the patriarch of this new series. He was the lead, or so he thought. But by the second season, the show had done a complete 360-degree turn to accommodate Jonathan Harris. Williams found himself reduced to little more than nothing, playing second fiddle to the cowardly Dr. Smith. A TV Guide set visit in 1966 described Harris as oozing triumph, mugging about the set, humming exuberantly, and beaming all the while. The article noted a stark contrast with the rest of the cast's demeanor. Following that piece, rumors spread that Williams was bitter and jealous over Harris's domination of the series. In a 1987 Starlog interview, Williams directly addressed those rumors. He said the TV Guide article was a little on the nasty side, and his real feelings were not about jealousy. He said he would have preferred to do a space show involving more real elements, survival on an alien planet, and all that goes with it. To have Smith betray Will week after week or get into trouble with aliens, Williams said, was tiresome. He was not bitter about Harris's success. He was frustrated that the show he signed up for had disappeared. Bill Mumy, who played Will Robinson, has publicly stated that he felt sorry for Williams. His fictional father was given less and less to do in the show, while the Dr. Smith character more or less took over. Mark Goddard, who played Don West, made an even more striking observation. He said Williams became so frustrated that he resorted to pilfering lines from other cast members, hastily committing them to film, while the actors who originally had them were still preparing. Goddard often turned up for the camera only to find his services were no longer required. Williams tried to fix it. He pushed for the show to become more scientific and realistic, to lessen the silly antics of Dr. Smith, the robot, and even Will. That obviously did not happen. According to fan accounts, after his efforts failed, he just gave up and did as he was told, relegating himself to becoming a background actor on a show that was supposed to be his vehicle. Dr. Smith was an afterthought, but he was not the only one. There was another character on Lost in Space who was never meant to be a star, a character who became so famous that most people cannot imagine the show without him. The robot. And the truth about how that robot came to life is stranger than anything the writers ever came up with. The disturbing truth about the robot. The robot from Lost in Space is one of the most recognizable characters in television history. The flailing arms, the flashing chest light, and the urgent cry of "Danger! Will Robinson!" Generations of fans grew up imitating that voice and those movements. But behind the cheerful facade of a family-friendly robot lies a story that is far darker and more uncomfortable than any episode ever produced. The robot was a nightmare to operate. It nearly crippled the man inside, and the two men who brought it to life both passed away under tragic circumstances. In 1965, the robot cost approximately $75,000 to produce. Adjusted for inflation, that is roughly $730,000 today. A staggering amount for a television prop. The complete suit weighed in excess of 200 pounds. Two versions of the robot were constructed for the series. A hero robot costume worn by Bob May for close-ups and walking scenes, and a static stunt robot prop used for distant or hazardous shots. The chest lights and motorized antennas were powered by an electrical cord that can occasionally be spotted in episodes trailing behind the robot like a mechanical tail. The original design called for the robot to walk. The bellows-covered legs were articulated and moved separately by the actor inside. But there was a serious problem. The metal edges inside the suit cut Bob May's legs badly, making walking in the suit unbearable. The production team had to improvise. The legs were bolted together so they could no longer move independently, and the robot was pulled along by a wire instead of walking. A new lower section was constructed with the legs cut off at the knee. This version was used for close-ups or when the robot stood behind something that hid the actor's feet. The cast and crew called it the Bermuda Shorts. The robot could not walk. It had to be dragged. Bob May was the man inside the costume. He performed all the physical movements, the arm gestures, and the signature flailing motions that made the robot seem alive. But Bob May did not provide the voice. That was Dick Tufeld, who also served as the series' omniscient narrator. The narration and the robot's voice were recorded by the same man, often in the same session. So the man who told viewers what was happening each week was also the man screaming, "Danger, Will Robinson." Inside the suit, Bob May had a key located in the left hook that he would tap in time with his speech to illuminate the chest light. This resulted in some scenes where one of the robot's claws can be seen moving in time with the light. It was a clever bit of puppetry, but it required coordination that was nearly impossible given what May was dealing with. The fluted, translucent ring collar was actually an arrangement of shaped ribs through which May could barely see to navigate. He was essentially blind inside a 200-pound metal suit that had been bolted together because it kept hurting his legs. The aftermath of Lost in Space was not kind to the men behind the robot. Bob May died of congestive heart failure in 2014 at the age of 69. He made only one other screen appearance after Lost in Space, a small role in the 1980 Jerry Lewis comedy Hardly Working. For a man who brought one of television's most beloved characters to life, his career after the show was remarkably sparse. Dick Tufeld died of congestive heart failure as well in 2012 at the age of 85. He had a longer career than May, working as the announcer for the radio show Space Patrol and for Guy Williams's earlier television show Zorro. After the series ended, both robot versions fell into disrepair. The hero robot was later privately owned by television and film producer Kevin Burns, who commissioned a replica in the early 1990s for touring and conventions. The stunt robot was displayed at the Science Fiction Museum and Hall of Fame in Seattle from 2004 until it was offered at auction by Heritage Auctions in 2023. The robot prop was also modified and reused on the Saturday morning children's show Mystery Island as the primary character POPS, with different domes, a different color scheme, and an added rectangular skirt of gold-colored tubes covering the rubber bellows legs. The robot that terrified and delighted millions of viewers ended its days as a hand-me-down on a forgotten children's show. The robot should not have worked, but it did. However, the same cannot be said for some of the other choices made on Lost in Space, because behind the scenes, the production was making mistakes so bizarre that fans are still discovering them decades later. The bizarre carrot episode. Every long-running television show has an episode that fans point to as the moment things went off the rails. For Lost in Space, that episode came late in the third and final season. It involved a giant talking carrot, and the cast could not stop laughing. The episode was called The Great Vegetable Rebellion. The plot was as absurd as the title suggests. Dr. Smith is confronted by a giant talking carrot named Tybo, who turns out to be a rogue alien botanist. Tybo informs Smith that he has hurt plants by snipping them. He then captures John, Don, and Maureen, while Smith does what one reviewer called a pretty fair impersonation of a celery stick for most of the episode. The image of Jonathan Harris pretending to be a vegetable while wearing a flowing cape is exactly as ridiculous as it sounds. This episode, the penultimate of the entire series, is widely considered the moment Lost in Space jumped the shark, long before that term was even invented. Critics have described it as the moment the series announced it was creatively spent, the bottom of the barrel being well and truly scraped. But the real drama was not on screen. It was behind the cameras. Guy Williams and June Lockhart were allegedly suspended because they could not stop laughing during the filming of the carrot scenes. Irwin Allen, the producer, used these penalties to enforce serious acting even with the most absurd material. Imagine being told with a straight face that you have to deliver a dramatic performance opposite a giant carrot. And if you laugh, you lose something. That is what Williams and Lockhart faced. They laughed anyway, and they paid the price. The episode was so bizarre that some viewers report being traumatized as children. Not by monsters or aliens or space dangers, but by vegetables. In fact, grown adults have admitted that watching The Great Vegetable Rebellion made them avoid eating carrots or Brussels sprouts for years. A children's show about a family lost in space managed to create a lifelong aversion to healthy food. That is a strange legacy. The carrot episode was not the only uncomfortable production secret from Lost in Space. Earlier in the series, an episode called The Phantom Family featured a famous scene of space hippies doing what looked like a drilling motion with their arms. For years, fans assumed this was just bad acting or strange choreography. The cast recently revealed the truth. The drilling motion was an inside joke about the crew's boredom. There was a darker reality behind that scene. The sound stage had no air conditioning. The heavy fiberglass spacesuits caused genuine heat stroke. The hippies were genuinely dehydrated and disoriented from the heat. The goofy dancing was actually actors trying not to pass out. The critical and fan fallout from the show's decline was harsh. One review famously described Lost in Space as a black hole, adding that even 6-year-olds watching realized the ship would never actually be destroyed. The show had become predictable. The stakes had evaporated. No matter how many times Dr. Smith sabotaged the Jupiter 2, the audience knew everyone would survive. CBS Chairman William S. Paley was reportedly ashamed and embarrassed by the direction of the show. He viewed CBS as a leader in quality entertainment, and Lost in Space had become something else entirely. The network that brought audiences The Twilight Zone and The Dick Van Dyke Show was also responsible for a giant talking carrot. Did you know that Jonathan Harris and Mark Goddard, who played Don West, were the only actors to appear in every single episode of the series? Not Guy Williams, not June Lockhart, not Billy Mooney. The two men who never missed a single day of work were the dastardly villain and the tough guy pilot. The patriarch of the Robinson family missed episodes. The beloved child star missed episodes. But Dr. Smith and Don West were there for all 83 of them. The carrot episode was a low point, but it was not the end. The show would be canceled soon after, and the way it happened was almost as bizarre as the show itself, and its cancellation would leave fans wondering what had happened. The weird way the show was canceled. In the spring of 1968, the cast of Lost in Space finished filming the 3rd season and attended the annual wrap party. There was no sadness in the air because there was no reason to be sad. Everyone expected a 4th season. Guy Williams was ready to sign up for another hitch on the Jupiter 2. The cast celebrated, said their temporary goodbyes, and assumed they would be back in a few months to start all over again. Then Williams met producer Irwin Allen and a CBS representative at a Beverly Hills hotel for publicity photos. A reporter reportedly asked when filming would begin on the next season. Before Williams could answer, the network person said something that stopped him cold. They said the season wasn't certain yet. Williams turned to Allen, confused. Allen took him aside and explained that he had not told anyone about the cancellation because he wanted to fight it first and hand everyone a new season on a silver platter. Unlike modern shows that announce final seasons and build toward series finales, few television shows in the 1960s ended with any resolution. Lost in Space simply stopped production without a proper finale. The last episode to air was Junkyard in Space. Viewers who tuned in that week had no idea they were watching the end. The show just disappeared from the schedule. There was actually a script outline for Season 4. The Robinsons would finally reach a space colony. Irwin Allen wanted to blow up the Jupiter 2 in the first episode of the new season and have the family buy a new ship. His motivation was not artistic. He wanted to sell new toys. CBS refused Allen's budget demands for the explosion and the new ship, so Allen pulled the plug and focused on Land of the Giants instead. The Jupiter 2 never exploded, the space colony was never reached, and the Robinsons remained lost forever. Years later, there was an attempt to bring the cast back. Jonathan Harris was supposed to reprise his role as Dr. Zachary Smith in a television movie titled Lost in Space: The Journey Home. But Harris became ill and died late in 2002, and the production was scrapped. The last chance to give the Robinsons a proper ending died with him. As of 2026, 3 of the main cast members are still alive. Marta Kristen, who played Judy Robinson, is 81 years old. After growing up in an orphanage in Norway, she considers her casting on Lost in Space a dream. She still acts occasionally and connects with fans at conventions. Angela Cartwright, who played Penny Robinson, is 73. After the show ended, she became a visual artist and photographer. She collaborated with Bill Mooney on a pictorial memoir called Lost and Found in Space and a fantasy novel titled On Purpose. Bill Mooney, who played Will Robinson, is 72. He went on to play Lenier in all 5 seasons of Babylon 5. He is also a prolific musician and was part of the comedy duo Barnes and Barnes, famous for the 1978 novelty track fish heads. He recently released a solo album called Wonder World. He once quipped that if he had known Lost in Space would still be running 50 years later, he would have renegotiated his residuals. The 2018 Netflix remake of Lost in Space brought some of the original cast back. Bill Mumy, Angela Cartwright, and June Lockhart all appeared in cameo roles before Lockhart's death. Mumy and Cartwright remain close friends and creative collaborators to this day. There have long been fan rumors about off-screen romances among the cast. The reality is much less dramatic. Most cast members have consistently denied any major on-set romances. Guy Williams was married with 2 children during the show's run. June Lockhart was married. Marta Kristen has stated in interviews that the cast was professional and more like a family than a dating pool. Jonathan Harris married his high school sweetheart in 1938, and they remained together until his death in 2002. That fact is often overlooked by fans who assumed otherwise based on his flamboyant on-screen persona. The final resting places of the Lost in Space cast tell their own stories. Guy Williams died of a brain aneurysm in Argentina in 1989 at age 65. He had retired there, and his body was not discovered for some time. June Lockhart died of natural causes on October 25, 2025, a few months after her 100th birthday. Mark Goddard died of pulmonary fibrosis in 2023 at age 87. He had later roles on One Life to Live and General Hospital. Jonathan Harris died of a blood clot in 2002 at age 87. He became a voice actor late in his life, with parts in A Bug's Life and Toy Story 2. Lost in Space was an accident from beginning to end. It was built on a rejected Star Trek pitch. Its most famous villain was a last-minute addition. Its beloved robot was a 200-pound metal suit that could not walk. It was canceled without anyone bothering to tell the cast. And yet, 60 years later, people still remember the Robinson family. The show that almost did not happen became one of the most enduring science fiction series of all time simply because it was unforgettable. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click on the next video on your screen, like this video, and subscribe to our channel for more updates.